Every NBA player has weaknesses or areas of improvement in their game. I think there are a lot of NBA player breakdowns that don't really highlight a player's weakness or what skill separates them from others. At this point, I feel like the casual viewer and advanced viewer, if they really pay attention to the game, knows player strengths. We know that. I'm hoping to achieve in this video highlighting every current star NBA player's biggest weakness. There will be 1 or 2 weaknesses listed for each player based on their 2023-2024 season. And with this list, I'm keeping these weaknesses on the court. They're on the court skills. I feel like I can really cheap you guys out for just saying, oh, this player is injury prone, so that's a weakness for some of these guys. So I really don't want to get into that. I really don't want to do that. And I feel like you guys already know the injury prone players. Of course, the biggest skill is staying on the court, but I just want to keep this on the court skills. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let's just get right into it. Luka Doncic, off-ball play and defensive consistency. Luka isn't much of a mover off-ball, usually staying at one side of the floor while he watches the offense develop. He doesn't cut much or recognizes the urgency in some situations to cut when a defender isn't facing him. He also doesn't provide much off the catch as a three-point shooter. You can see at times he doesn't look comfortable shooting off the catch, opting for step backs to get in rhythm. His defense can wane at times. He doesn't have the quickest feet to be versatile in who he defends. He does have the strength to hold his own on drives as well as provide activity and help, but he has a tendency to fall asleep off ball, giving up cuts or leaving a man open. Trae Young, rim pressure and on-ball defense. Trae Young doesn't possess a quick first step and lacks the physical tools of strength, height, and wingspan to be a dynamic finisher at the rim, opting for more mid-range shots. This limits how he can generate easy shots for himself, more so being a tough shot maker and a perimeter threat. Defensively, he does show activity, but his lack of strength and other physical tools really hurt him. He can die on screens, not possessing quick enough foot speed and strength to get over effectively, and also can be prone to ball watching at times and not giving consistent effort off ball. Giannis Antetokounmpo, shooting. Giannis's game is based primarily on rim scoring, using his athleticism and explosiveness to score and make plays, but he doesn't provide much of an outside game. His mid-range shooting is poor, lacking efficiency and shooting consistency, and though he is a willing three-point shooter, the defense is more than happy seeing him take and brick threes. Building around him makes it hard, with always having to have shooting around him from all positions at all times for Giannis to be truly effective. And even though Giannis is elite drawing fouls, he's a poor free throw shooter, so he really doesn't convert the fouls he draws. Victor Wembanyama, turnovers and defensive discipline. Wemby ranked 5th in the league in total turnovers, 2nd in turnovers among bigs in the league. His handle can be loose at times, and dribbling through traffic looks to be a problem for him, as guys can rip and poke the ball from him easily. He's still growing, processing an offense with the ball in his hands, but we have seen some bad passes and bad decisions. Wemby was one of the best defenders in the league. His freakish length, athleticism, and mobility as a big is great enough to anchor a defense, but he suffers a problem that a lot of young bigs have coming into the league. He's prone to biting on fakes, not being in the right position at times defensively within ball screens. The trust to guard the perimeter isn't there yet, as crafty or quicker guards can throw him off. Kevin Durant, rim pressure. Durant is coming up on his twilight years. He doesn't have much of a quick first step and doesn't consistently attack the rim. He is a great finisher when he does get inside off of advantages created for him. Durant has made a living off of being a great jump shooter and tough shot maker, but he isn't someone who is going to blow by many guys one-on-one and get the defense scrambling with his drives, as he prefers mid-range jumpers, which also limits his playmaking. Durant is also getting to the line less at 5.6 free throw attempts a game. This is the least he has gotten to the line since his rookie year. Jayson Tatum, inefficient mid-range shooting and shot selection. Tatum over the years decreased his frequency in which he operated in the mid-range, opting for more drives and threes. But the mid-range shot hasn't been the most efficient shot for him. Shoots 38% in the mid-range, and though he has ways to get it off and create space, he just doesn't knock them down at a high level to be respectable there. Tatum's shot selection can be questionable at times too. falling too much in love with jumpers at times, even in clutch situations, or even when he has a mismatch on him, at times just settling for tough jumpers when he doesn't have to. Anthony Edwards, quick decisions and mid-range efficiency. Anthony Edwards has improved a ton last season as a playmaker, but there's still some more tweaks he can work on. Accuracy on his skip passes and just making quicker decisions when reading the floor. There are times Ant can drive into traffic with not much of a plan and get trapped, or he has the right idea on where to pass to, but just being too late to execute that pass. Ant is a high volume mid-range shooter, but he shoots under 40% on these shots. Though he does a good job evaluating space to take them and also creating separation, he doesn't knock them down at a high level to be considered an elite threat from there. Edwards doesn't possess the quickest pull-up J also, but I do like how he has taken much more off the glass jumpers, and not many young players coming into the league does that. Nikola Jokic, rim protection. Jokic isn't the most vertically gifted or versatile defender, which is why he needs to be surrounded by athletes and capable backline help. He isn't mobile enough to anchor a defense within drop coverage or sliding over quickly to protect the rim on drives. He isn't the quickest or mobile enough to defend the perimeter. Positionally, he can be out of place sometimes when the defense is in rotation, and if someone isn't there to help him in the backline, he is giving up a shot inside. Tyrese Haliburton, contact finishing and on-ball defense. Tyrese doesn't drive inside too much, and when he does, he doesn't like to embrace contact, oftentimes taking off too early on drives or going for floating shots. He can at times be moved off balance by stronger players, and his inability to play physical and embrace contact when attacking really makes him a non-threat inside or a threat to draw fouls. Tyrese also isn't the most sound defender on ball. He tends to get beat off the dribble, doesn't offer much resistance, or has much strength to wall up and stay grounded defensively. His screen navigation is lacking, and oftentimes he just dies or gets hammered on screens. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, off-ball play and advanced playmaking. Shai isn't much of a mover off ball. He doesn't attempt many shots off the catch, shoots 34% on one catch and shoot 3 a game, and he doesn't work off screens much to get open or be an active cutter. He does provide value as a closeout attacker, but that's pretty much it. He dominates the ball a lot, and within OKC's system, that just might be better for him to do. Shai is a good enough passer as a drive and kick, fine cutters, dump off pass type of guy, and he does a good job creating drives that gets the defense in rotation, but he's not a guy who is going to constantly carve up a defense with his passing in a way Luka, Trae Young, LeBron, Harden does. He tends to be a bit too patient and conservative with the ball instead of making quick reads. It's clear he likes to hunt more for his own shots, and at times he can miss windows to hit teammates. Jalen Brunson, physical limitations and hero ball. Brunson is a 6'2 guard with not much length, not much explosive burst off the dribble. The physical limitations makes it tough on offense as he has to rely more so on tough or crafty shot making, which he can do at a high level, but the lack of athleticism and burst really makes it tough to consistently blow by guys and generate easy shots. Brunson is more so of a team defender, taking charges and being a guy to make the right rotations. His size limits how versatile he can be defensively. He holds his own, but sometimes that isn't enough to where taller players can just shoot right over him. And he's also not quick enough on his feet to defend athletic guards and keep up consistently. Now, I get last season the Knicks didn't have the best supporting cast of creators around Brunson, with Randle being out, which put a heavy burden on him to be the main initiator. But there's a tendency Brunson has to force the issue on shots, putting himself in tough positions or take low percentage shots in critical moments that can swing a game. And this can be done in back-to-back possessions instead of just keeping a steady flow of ball movement going with the Knicks offense. LeBron James, mid-range shooting and defensive consistency. LeBron hasn't been the most efficient shooter in the mid-range last season, but somehow was damn good as a three-point shooter, but also a meh free throw shooter. I don't get it, but anyways, he shoots 38% according to Cleaning the Glass in the mid-range. He doesn't create too many easy jumpers for himself, not much separation he gets on his jumpers, and can take some difficult turnarounds or fading jumpers that don't always connect. LeBron still shows really good activity on ball and off when engaged, but when he's not engaged, it's pretty loud. can fall asleep on rotations and get in backdoor cut at times. He's not as agile as he once was, which makes him prone at times to getting beat off the dribble. Zion Williamson, shooting and defensive versatility. Zion Williamson doesn't show much willingness to shoot the basketball. This limits a bit of his off-ball game and also his perimeter creation. There's not a three-point shooting game or mid-range game to really go off from him. He is mainly a rim pressure guy, but the lack of shooting makes it tough to build a team around him. Having a center or anyone else on the floor who can't shoot, guys can clog the lane for Zion's attacks, and he isn't the most accurate passer to constantly make the defense pay for sending help against him. Zion is a weird defender positionally. Listed as a power forward, he is not quick enough on his feet to really defend the perimeter and not big enough to defend against centers, which limits how versatile Zion can be within a defensive scheme. He has to be matched up to only really forwards, and he does provide at least some solid help defense. Ja Morant, shooting and on-ball defense. For this, I have to take into account Ja's 2023 and 2024 season. He isn't much of an efficient shooter. He is willing to take threes off the catch and off the dribble, as well as take pull-up mid-range jumpers, but he just doesn't knock them down at a consistent or an efficient rate to bend defenses. His mid-range game is mostly taking floaters or using his athleticism to get to the rim and make plays. Ja can be prone at times to getting beat off the dribble. He doesn't always defend in an active and low stance. At times can gamble too much either for steals or trying to beat a defender to a position. He lacks the strength to defend against bigger guys. His screen navigation can be cleaned up. Oftentimes can't really effectively get over screens and trails the play, giving up 2-on-1 situations. Joel Embiid, passing out of double teams. Embiid has improved a lot over the years as a passer. His passing strengths pop more when he is stationary in a face-up situation and can read the floor. The accuracy isn't always the best for him, but he has improved in reading the floor well. Embiid starts to panic a bit when doubles come his way. Teams oftentimes send a double immediately when Embiid puts the ball down on drives going baseline, and with this added pressure, the double teams can surprise him, and Embiid has a tendency to throw some bad passes or make some questionable decisions on where he is passing the ball to. Devin Booker, driving limitations. When Devin Booker does get to the rim, he has some really nice touch and is a good finisher, but he just doesn't get there at a high level. He isn't explosive with the ball in his hands to blow by defenders consistently, or shifty enough to break down defenders and create an advantage for himself at a high level. This oftentimes sees Booker having to settle for tough jumpers to score against the defense. Booker also has a rather loose handle, which physical defenders can at times exploit, and he can be prone to losing control of the ball or struggling to dribble through tight spaces. LaMelo Ball, scoring polish. Even though LaMelo is a 20 points per game scorer, his scoring can be much more polished. He isn't the strongest driver or finisher in the game. He has the shiftiness but lacks strength, burst, and also shies away from contact a lot, having to rely on touch to try and score, and his touch around the rim hasn't been the most consistent. He can be off balance on a lot of his shots inside. The lack of rim pressure reflects in his low free throw rate. His craftiness, footwork, and the ability to initiate and play with contact can be so much better. A lot of his drives can look pretty awkward and off balance. LaMelo's shot selection also can be cleaned up. You can tell he's a young guy with a full green light on a growing team, and he has a tendency to chuck up some questionable shots. LaMelo's in-between game can also be much more polished. He likes using floaters and runners. He doesn't have the quickest pull-up jumper to fall back on. Defenses are very comfortable playing drop coverage on him, and since he doesn't have that reliable mid-range game and the touch on his floaters, he isn't a guy yet who's going to punish drop coverage defenses. Kyrie Irving, foul drawing, and defensive limitations. Kyrie doesn't get too many trips to the foul line, and this is seen at a decrease over the years, as well as his shots at the rim has declined. Age, wear and tear, lack of explosiveness and burst can be contributing factors to Kyrie's lessened rim pressure. The greatest scorers in the game are able to draw fouls at a high level. Drawing fouls is vital as it slows the game down and allows the offensive player to start to get a rhythm going if they're struggling. Though he can be physical on drives, he is much more of a slithery finisher and not much open to initiating and taking contact when inside. Kyrie, I believe for years now, has been a very underrated defender, provides good activity on ball and off ball to be very respectable. But given the lack of height, length, and strength, he can be picked on at times by stronger wings who could put the ball down. It really does hurt how versatile he can be within a defensive scheme. Steph Curry, shot creation regression and on-ball defense regression. Steph Curry is still one of the best scorers currently in the game, but this season we start to see Father Time starting to catch up. Steph wasn't always the most explosive ball handler, but he had a good and creative handle and was very agile with his handle to where he can change pace and directions effectively and could almost always create an advantage, shaking off defenders and creating easy looks for finishes. It seems last season he lost a step, losing that agility and shiftiness to break down those defenders consistently. Looking a bit slower with those moves, Curry is starting to see a decrease in looks at the rim as well as free throw attempts. He has leaned much more on his mid-range game, which he has been very great in using, but this version of Curry as a scorer doesn't look to put too much pressure on the rim and relies more on his off-ball game and jump shooting, which he has been very effective in. Steph is a very active team defender and still is that. The situation last season in Golden State really wasn't ideal, playing with small lineups and stuff, putting a bit of a strain on him on both ends. On ball, he does show some resistance at times with that added strength, but the lack of height and length makes it tough for him to be a switchable defender. The lateral quickness and foot speed isn't the best and can give up advantages one-on-one or moving through screens. Kawhi Leonard, off-ball defense. Kawhi Leonard is still a really good active defender, has really good physical tools to be a plus on that end. He's much more equipped defending forwards and bigs rather than quick guards, which does limit a bit of his versatility. Kawhi Leonard also has lapses off ball to where he can get beat on cuts at times or be late on a rotation. He also has a tendency to ball watch, and given the offensive load he has to carry, he can take some plays off at times on defense. Paul George, rim pressure and settling. Paul George's combination of handles and tough shot making makes him a legit scorer, but there's times he can really settle for tough shots instead of looking for a better play either for himself or for his teammate. He isn't as explosive off the dribble anymore, but still at least is crafty to break down the defense. He doesn't get to the rim much, and even when advantages are created, he prefers going for more pull-up jumpers or threes rather than getting deep into the paint and making a play for himself or his teammate. He can at times settle for tough jumpers instead of being aggressive, which questions his role as a legit second option. Anthony Davis, shooting consistency and playmaking limitations. Anthony Davis shows a lot of inconsistencies with his jumper. He isn't much of a threat from three, and his mid-range jumper can be mixed. He isn't much of a tough shot maker either, or will kill teams down in stretches with his jumper. Shot 39% on jump shots last season, and he doesn't provide much versatility as a pick and popper. Davis's game is primarily based on playing inside, which he has been much more efficient in. Davis has improved over the years as a passer. He's much more of a sharper, stationary passer than a live dribble passer. Once Davis puts the ball down, he isn't the best navigating and passing out of double teams, or can be a mixed bag when reading where the help is coming from and trying to make a play. De'Aaron Fox, settling. De'Aaron Fox, when he came into the league, was one of the better rim attackers in the league, as well as a big time driving kick threat. Still has that quickness, but this past season has seen a decrease in shots at the rim. Mostly in the half court, he tends to settle for more jumpers, and since he found that three-point shooting stroke, he has been launching more threes than ever in his career and is going away from what he was originally great at, which was rim pressure. Damian Lillard, inefficient shooting and on-ball defense. Dame had a really poor shooting season. The shots he usually created just wasn't dropping, but also the lack of burst from Dame just wasn't what we've seen in previous years from him. Creating advantages and blow-bys didn't come easy, which made his game completely reliant on jumpers. Though Damian does provide some good length and some strength at his size to help on defense, he doesn't offer much resistance on ball. He isn't the quickest moving his feet, which he can get blown by, and due to the lack of height and resistance on ball, he isn't much of a switchable defender. Dame also isn't the best screen navigator, can die on screens, and this hurts the Bucks when they want to play drop coverage with Brook and stuff. Jalen Brown, advanced playmaking. Jaylen Brown has more improvements this past year than weaknesses. His handle has been much better, doesn't often lose the ball when he is met by heavy traffic. There is still a tendency to pick up his dribble a bit early when driving, but he also has found counters to still be aggressive when he gets stuck. Brown isn't the most advanced playmaker, makes good simple reads, but as one of the main initiators, he doesn't manipulate much of the defense or make advanced reads. The offensive structure does help him a lot because even if he sees multiple bodies, there's always going to be an open guy nearby, but his reads can be delayed at times or he just doesn't see the open man when attacking downhill at times. Jimmy Butler, 3-point shooting willingness. Jimmy Butler doesn't show much willingness to shoot the 3-ball at times. Though he did shoot 41% from 3 last season, he did this on only 2 attempts a game. Really low volume 3-point shooter that doesn't offer much as a movement shooting option or a pull-up option. Jimmy's game mostly comes in the mid-range or at the rim, and he does provide value off ball as a sharp cutter, but the lack of a 3-ball makes teams willing to sag off of him when he is along the 3-point line. Domantas Sabonis, defensive versatility. Domantas Sabonis' lack of athleticism and verticality limits his ability to be a high-level rim protector. Being a 6'10 center with an average wingspan for a big man also makes it harder for him to effectively challenge and deter shots. Sabonis is not really the most imposing threat inside for slashers or shooters. Sabonis also doesn't really possess active or quick hands to swipe away passes, which really limits him to be a drop coverage defender. He does possess strength and decent positioning and help and in ball screens, but he isn't the most mobile guy to be trusted defending in space, and he is a pretty limited guy in how you can scheme for him. Cade Cunningham, finishing and offensive polish. Cade isn't the quickest athlete and he doesn't put a ton of pressure on the rim as a lead guard. A lot of his shots come within the mid-range. He really is in a bad situation in terms of spacing, so oftentimes he does get met with multiple defenders when driving, but he does have his own faults. He really struggles with consistent touch inside and finishing through contact, really lacking the power and finesse in his game. He doesn't explode off the ground with much verticality, which could lead to his shot getting blocked. He shot 56% at the rim per clean the glass, really poor percentage for a 6'6 guy. And Cade has grown to be that mid-range pull-up threat and found a call-in there. The 3-point shooting at times can be mixed. He can work on being more of a pull-up threat. Cade doesn't get to the foul line as much. He's a good shooter from there, but also we noted before that the driving and finishing limitations he needs to work on. Cade's turnover tape is also a weird case because he's generally a good passer and decision maker, and then he has moments where it's just like, you didn't have to force that pass, or why would he pass there when the defender is baiting him? Darius Garland, finishing and physical limitations. Darius Garland is a poor finisher when he gets inside. The touch around the rim isn't always consistent, having to rely on pull-up jumpers and floaters as a weapon near the rim. Garland at 6'1" can be prone to losing balance when met with physicality, and he doesn't really move players when he tries to create contact. Garland has the speed and burst to get to the rim, but he suffers a bit of the Russell Westbrook tendency of always accelerating, always going 100 to the rim, and this could result in moments of overshooting a layup. Garland also doesn't give you much physically, a smaller guard with a meh wingspan, and still needs to bulk up a bit. James Harden, regressed athleticism and defensive consistency. The rate on James Harden getting to the rim has significantly dropped off over the years. Harden, still being a master in the pick and roll and a shot creator, has leaned more into his jumper and playmaking more. Harden's burst and explosiveness has regressed, and it's become a bit more of a challenge for him to blow by defenders consistently one-on-one. Harden's consistency on defense has been a problem and continues to be a problem. He does give you strength and length to challenge guys, and when he is actually locked in, can give you some solid on-ball defense, but he isn't the quickest moving laterally and has a tendency to give up on a play when he is beat. He doesn't always get into a low active stance to defend on ball. His awareness can really wane, giving up open threes and cuts to the point that it looks like he's just taking plays off. Jalen Green, shooting consistency, efficiency, and advanced playmaking. Efficiency and consistency are the biggest areas of weakness for Jalen Green. It's very clear that he has the talent, the shot creation ability, but just knocking down shots at a high level is needed. He's a poor shooter from all 3 levels, but it's clear he can create shots at all 3 levels. Results in some really bad shooting performances from him, and there's times he plays with good pacing, finding the right shot for himself, but then it can quickly turn into taking questionable shots. Has to do a better job playing in control consistently. Green has shown progress in decision making the simple passes, but there still needs to be work done. He isn't always secure with the ball when operating in tight spaces or against physicality, and this can result in some rough turnovers from him. Quicker timing when to pass the ball and evaluating open windows to find teammates is another area to work on. He's not much of an advanced passer who is going to destroy different coverages. Scottie Barnes, shooting consistency and mid-range polish. Scottie Barnes isn't the most consistent shooter from mid-range or 3. His 3-point shooting off the catch has really got better to where he can knock them down at a good rate, but he can be here and there overall as a shooter. Not much of a pull-up 3 threat either. His mid-range game is seeing some growth, but still an area Scottie can be better. Not the quickest pull-up J, but he does have a high enough set point to shoot over guys. He's not shifty or explosive with his dribbles, so he is going to have to rely on cleaner footwork, bumps to create space, and craft to put together counter moves in the mid-range, quicker pulls in space, much more use of stop and pops, and the use of face-up jumpers. Donovan Mitchell, shot selection. Donovan Mitchell is probably the best offensive shooting guard in the league, but a drawback to his game is that he can take some really questionable shots at times, getting a bit too trigger happy or at times playing too fast to where he can't keep track of where the open guy is. At times, it does feel like he can settle and take tough jumpers instead of generating the most open shot. Brandon Ingram, off-ball play, and rim pressure. Brandon Ingram isn't much of a mover off-ball, not the most active cutter, and doesn't show much willingness to shoot threes off the catch. He does shoot 36% on catch-and-shoot threes on 2 attempts, but this isn't a high enough volume for him to be considered a high-level catch-and-shoot threat. Ingram is a solid finisher when he gets inside, but he doesn't get to the rim at a high enough level to really bend the defense consistently. Ingram doesn't have the quickest first step and can get bumped and moved off center on drives. Oftentimes he can settle for mid-range jumpers. Tyrese Maxey, pull-up shooting consistency and advanced playmaking. Tyrese Maxey hit a wall last season for shooting mostly off the dribble, shot 37% on pull-up 2s and 32% on pull-up 3s, a shot he shoots at a high volume. The mid-range shooting really fell off. The creation and ability to create separation is there, but he just needs to knock these down at a higher percentage. Tyrese has also taken a leap as a playmaker. The passing pops more so when he can make the extra pass and in transition situations. But he isn't someone who's going to carve up a defense with his passing, not much versatility in his passes. He finds the guy who is closest to him, but he's not much of a skip passer or can make long range passes. Also, there are decision-making issues when he collapses a defense, at times can be delayed or get a bit of tunnel vision when attacking inside. Paolo Banchero, finishing touch. Paolo has all the tools to be an amazing interior threat, has the size, physicality, foul drawing ability, but he lacks consistent touch and finesse around the rim. He has some strong drives and can get deep into the paint, but on his gallers, his footwork doesn't always look the cleanest, and also can really miss some point-blank layups by just overshooting it.